We've got a proposal which we use to request proposals from qualified contractors to perform for sanitary sewer maintenance services, specifically sanitary sewer lining, grouting, sealing, and point repairs. These deficiencies were identified during the recently completed SAW grant. The city knew significant deficiencies would be identified and proactively budgeted $200,000 in the 2022-2023 budget for the first year of sanitary sewer maintenance program. The SAW program was officially closed on March 1st, 2023. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve proposal for professional design engineering services to develop bidding documents for sanitary sewer maintenance program with Hubble, Roth and Clark Incorporated, whose address is P.O. Box 824, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, 48303, in the amount of not to exceed $8,400. Direct the city manager to sign the contract on behalf of the city.
Second. Comments, questions, or concerns?
We have reps from.
I was just getting to say that.
Sorry.
I have invited the reps from HRC, and I've also asked DPW Superintendent Joe Vernier to be here this evening, so if council has any questions for them.
Yes, I don't know what the names are. If
HRC, could you
come up to the podium.
please step forward?
Hello, Roland Alex with Hubble, Roth and Clark. Edward Fish, Hubble, Roth and Clark.
Hello.
Mrs. Navy?
Yes, now this is just for maintenance, correct? This isn't anything that was of structural identified in SAW grant, correct? This is just maintenance.
Well, so what this project is, the scope is to basically take the areas that were identified as having deficiencies as part of the SAW grant, and then putting a program together to actually rehabilitate those sewers. So there are sewer lining options for some of the sewers that can just be lined, meaning the integrity of the pipe is okay, but it needs to be lined because there's cracks in it, it's not structurally unsound. If there are some point repairs, which we may have a few, those would be addressed as part of this program. And then there's some areas where maybe just the joints just need some grouting. So the scope of the program is to actually put a list of these deficiencies, identify the locations together, have contractors bid on it, and then actually do the rehabilitation.
So you can kind of look at it like maintenance on your car, right? So your
Right.
car is this big system, you gotta check the brakes every 1,500 miles, 15,000 miles. So we've gone through your system, we've determined deficiencies, just like your car, and now we're
Right.
saying, okay, we're gonna replace the brakes, we're gonna replace the two front brakes, we're gonna work on the exhaust, we're gonna patch this hole in the radiator. So it's maintaining this infrastructure that is aged, and it's trying to extend the life of your existing stormwater and sanitary sewer system.
And then because this isn't my line of work, I would assume that, because this is what, 200,000, this is going to be for the things that were identified in the SAW grant that really aren't major issues, correct?
Major is a tough word to
I mean,
define.
I don't wanna say put a Band-Aid on things.
These aren't
but
like,
That's
these
my
aren't like
concern.
health and safety, these aren't like, it's gonna collapse and it's gonna suck a house into it.
Right.
It's not that type of damage we're looking at.
Right.
It's where you've got groundwater that's leaking into your pipe, so we'll try to seal those pipes up so that the water treatment plant has to treat less waste, so you hopefully would save some money on that end. But from a bigger overarching picture, the city hasn't spent this type of money on their system in many, many years, so this is a huge first step to try to address this aged infrastructure system. So I applaud you, council, and city staff to budget this money and to take the first step in helping create a better infrastructure for your citizens.
The 200,000 is what the council budgeted in last
Right,
year's
I-
budget for this
I know
year, for the
that.
current fiscal year, which we haven't even spent yet.
Right.
Correct.
Right. And so that $200,000 will go, that's all gonna be to contractors, that money will be spent, $200,000 will be spent repairing your sewers, like Eddie mentioned, the different types of repairs. But that's all money that's going right into fixing your problems that you have.
And I would assume that's gonna be eaten up pretty quick, considering the little bit of details that I saw from the SAW grant from the presentation.
Right, it's-
200 is gonna be eaten up pretty quick.
I mean, it's a great start.
It's a start.
It's a great start. It's more than just a start. I mean, communities of a similar size, maybe budget $80,000 or $100,000, so you're going above and beyond what some other communities do. It's more than just a little bit. It's gonna improve your system for sure.
Yeah, and the only reason, because I was looking at some of the numbers annually for capital improvement.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we're looking at some of those annual numbers and then we see 200,000 and I'm like, that kind of seems like a little chip in the bucket when I look at the other numbers. So that's why, and I'm glad you guys are here so I can ask these questions, because and you guys did Sawgrass, you guys will see that we've gotten to a point where kicking this down the street anymore is no longer an option.
And it'd be great if money grew on trees, right, but this is a continued effort that you're gonna have to continue throughout the years. This one spin isn't gonna fix all your problems, as you're alluding to, so. It's something that, I forget who had the interview that we read about the Saw Grant interview that, somebody, I forget who in council had that, but it opened your eyes a little bit and it made you realize how serious the problem was. So
Oh,
this is
yeah.
a great first step.
Yeah, I've spent some time looking at how much this, and I know, well, I know it's kind of off topic. And I would ask the city manager, is it possible to get for council some more details from the results, the findings of the Saw Grant? A little bit more than what was in the PowerPoint. Is that possible?
Mrs. Gerstenberg?
Thank you, Mayor Gillis. Councilwoman Davey, we can speak after the council meeting and see exactly, you know, what you would like to see, but we have binders full of information provided as a result of the Saw Grant. But this project is the beginning of fixing our infill and infiltration problem.
yeah.
But we have this problem with all this wastewater going to the wastewater treatment plant, and so this is step one in fixing it. The cost of the improvements, like to do the whole entire systems, was around $2 million. So at $200,000 a year, we have a number of years ahead of us working towards this fix. However, we are looking into some, you know, other sources of funding to help us out, but we can't wait because of the problem is so severe right now.
Trust me, and that was one of the reasons I was asking, the Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan. Is that something that we have, but that we could do, because that's not part of what this is. If we could maybe have the engineering firm here again to maybe explain to us who are not in the engineering field, what other avenues besides capital improvement we've looked into for funding. At some, maybe, next meeting or.
Mrs. Gerstenberg?
Mayor Gillis, Councilman Davey, we will be looking into all possible options for funding. There is a revolving fund for drinking water. I'm not sure if that's applicable for
No, there's not.
sanitary sewers, but there are other funding mechanisms, and we're continuing to research those as we go.
Mayor Gillis, I'm sorry.
Yes.
There is, it's actually a clean water
Right.
state revolving
Right,
fund.
it's
That would,
CWSRF, yeah.
right,
So it's-
exactly, that would,
Yeah.
I believe it's 20-year is 1.875 for 20-year.
A little bit higher than that, I think you're about just over 2%, talking about the interest rate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
20 years,
So you can do a 20 or
1.8,
30 year
Right.
depending.
1.8,
Yeah, it's,
30.
they've been going up, but it's still an option that, you know, many communities will go to. If you have a large amount of work that you wanna do, and you wanna get a 20-year loan to help pay that off, you know, it's definitely an option. There's a lot of steps that you have to do upfront, as you know. There's tens of thousands of dollars that they make you put together. A project plan is what they call it.
Mhm.
So you have to come up with all these different options and alternatives, starting with doing nothing in the system, which obviously you're not gonna do, but you gotta put it in there and show how quickly it would depreciate. And then you have to go through all these different alternatives, come up with priorities. There's a 3-part application. So it's like there's a milestone schedule like the MDOT project, so it's like a 6-month process where you put all this stuff together. But if you get it, it's great. But the other thing that's going on right now, everybody and their brother has been going for these, grants right now, and loans. So we've put out some project plans recently and not even on the scale, way down the list, because literally there are just like thousands of applications that are now going out.
Yeah, so it's not guaranteed that you'll get it, that's important to,
And I had
so it's
read-
a risk versus reward thing, you wanna spend $40,000-$50,000 up front, and then you may
Right.
not get any money, so it's definitely something to consider, for sure.
Yeah, 'cause I had read today, and I think they had just changed it over the last few days, for the intent to apply.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading how crazy it is.
Yeah.
Now that they're getting into fiscal year 2025 and already getting the intent to apply. Cause I looked at some stuff
No,
before this.
That's good. That's
And
great research.
I looked at some and it's like, okay, now my head's gonna explode.
Yeah.
And the only reason is cause there's a neighboring community who's doing that. And so, you know, I get something stuck in my head, so then I gotta go find out, and then I don't sleep. But yeah, and I was very curious about that, so I'm really glad you guys are here to answer those questions.
Definitely.
So I can sleep tonight, not have to look
Ah,
at any
does
more
any-
stuff.
Does anybody else have any questions on this agenda item or?
I'm wondering about the piping, that the deficiencies were so bad that you couldn't go into them. Is that structural, or is that maintenance as we try to address those issues where you couldn't even really get in to look at them?
Well, so if they can't get in the pipe and they try two different directions, or a portion of the pipe because there's an obstruction, oftentimes that becomes then a point repair, which means you actually do have to excavate and you actually have to take out a section of pipe. And you'll know once you're down in there, you know, maybe it's just one stick of pipe, maybe it's an 8-foot section. It's hard to know, but what these videos try to help you with in the log sheets, they'll tell you how many feet they can go this way, so the obstruction, then they come from another manhole and go so many feet, and then maybe you're left with 50 feet. So then you have to really look at that 50 feet as potentially being one large issue. Now, sometimes it's literally just, there could be two small issues on them, we've seen that before too, but you never know until you get in. So the point is, those will become point repairs, because you can't line a pipe that's like this, you know? And so at that point, it does become a point repair, and it's an actual structural repair.
And I wouldn't get too hung up on maintenance versus structural repair, they're all maintenance, it's an existing system that you're maintaining. It's just how is the maintenance inside the pipe, or is the maintenance digging down and replacing it, so.
Okay.
Anyone else? Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Blair,
Yes.
Councilman Carter,
Yes.
Councilwoman Davies,
Yes.
Mayor Gillis,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin,
Yes.